there's a lot more research in the fire service. I think people are even a little more aware of it, because, and maybe that has to do with the climate change, and it seems like there are more hazardous years, I'll say, in fire quicker, every couple of years. I remember a few years ago, that was a bad fire season, and somebody said on the TV, this was the worst fire, it was like 2008 or 9, they said it's the worst fire season since 2002, which you would think just 1952 or something would be something you would say, but in 6 years, there was another hugely destructive fire season, and those seem to be happening more often than not. So that's changed. I think the year-round ability of a lot of groups, particularly the jumpers, more professional stuff that they do, has become a full-time job, a career, where before it was a career for only a few people. They really had to go out back to the district and do other things like that, or move on to some other agency or whatnot. That's certainly changed. I think people that are drawn to the job are probably pretty much the same types of people that they would that we have. You like to be outside, you like to do things physical, you like a certain camaraderie with a small group of people. It's challenging, and you're doing something I think that most people look at as positive. You're doing a positive thing for a community or for people. So that's probably stayed the same, I think. But it hopefully we've learned more. I mean, scientifically and how we apply ourselves. I think we have. I don't know if it's going to revert back at some time, where you forget all of a sudden those things. I don't think so. It seems with how dangerous these fire seasons are, it seems like happening more often, that they really can't afford to do that they have to stay really on top of how to use fire to help you. Because it seems like there's more, it's not just in California, I mean, it's Texas and Florida, and places that certainly have experienced fire, but typically aren't known for those kind of devastations that you see out in the West. So that's happening, more and more. But politics change things. But I think the jumpers are they're probably a little safer too. I think they probably stress a little safety. I don't think we didn't stress safety, but I think just in general of going to a fire and where you would drop the jumpers as opposed to where they might have taken more risks before. Sometimes you learn over time, it's better to do this or do this way. If you're an older jumper, you can always kid them that they're not as macho as they used to be, or, when back in my day, that sort of thing. But you can go back farther. I mean, people before me in the 50s or 60s would probably say the same thing. The equipment wasn't as good, better equipment. So that increases your safety. I think there's more of that goes on, but that's probably it. I don't think it's radically different, really. I used to think I was in Alaska and we were on a fire and we're like using these burlap sacks and a spruce bough, and yet we're flying in an aircraft, jumping these square parachutes, these crude wings, down to a fire. And then what are we doing? We're not using any modern equipment. We're just taking a branch or a burlap sack filled with wet moss and beating out a fire that they could have done like 200 years ago. It's funny, the new technology we have to get to the fire, but yet when we get there, we're using the same methods that they used probably a couple centuries before, and they're just as effective. But in most cases, that's a unique area, I think. Nowadays, of course, everybody wouldn't want to go back to not having a chainsaw or not having a bulldozer or fire retardant, but that's maybe a unique example. But yeah, that's that sort of thing. It's like I said, it's pretty similar, I think, generally speaking. I don't think it's been a radical departure from what it was before. Same types of people drawn to it, same type of tactics almost, but refined over the years. And obviously technology's improved with the tools that you use to fight it. And fire hasn't changed, I don't think. It's still the same old guy. But when women were allowed in, that was a change, and not everybody, I don't think not everybody accepted that. Most people did, the younger folks I did, and some of the older guys. As long as they could do the job, I think it's basically, that's what happens with any job, you know, even if it has to be changed from where it used to be. I mean, the forest used to be bad. They wouldn't let any women work in the field, you know, just because they didn't let them. You know, even though they're in the 60s, there wasn't a ton of women who wanted to work in the field. They just, you know, the good old boy kind of thing. No, you can't do it because we don't want you to. And then sort of that changed, which that was a good change. I mean, you should have